Welcome to the Dealmaker Show, the #1 place for entrepreneurs and dealmakers to learn about leveraging and generating status, frame control, and narrative power to close big deals. Here is your host, investment banker, deal-making expert, and best-selling author of Pitch Anything and Flip the Script, Mr. Oren Klaff.
Hey guys, this is Oren, and you're on the Dealmaker podcast. Today, it's brought to you by Investor Brand Network. In fact, there's a link at investorbrandnetwork.com/Oren. If you hear anything on this broadcast that says, I need to talk to Oren, I need to talk to IBN, go to investorbrandnetwork/Oren and send us a message, and we'll get right back to you. I mean, I won't. No one else will. Somebody will. I mean, if you say, hey, I want to talk to you guys about something, then we won't. But if you put in specifics, what you actually need and want and can do, then we'll get it right back to you. All right. My guest today, bringing him on, is freaking me the hell out. Paul Duffy. Paul, so he's the president of NexTech. NexTech is a augmented reality company. And so augmented reality is a word that means everything and it means nothing. And Paul, I don't think that we will be doing any justice. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion. I mean, this is augmented reality ground zero. Is that right?
For sure. Yeah, pretty much.
And so like flying cars, like, the things we've been promised for years, space stations, space travel, mission to Mars, self-driving cars. We've been promised augmented reality holograms for, I don't know, since the Pleistocene era. And year after year, it never comes until the most likely person to usher augmented reality in from Star Wars to modern culture arrives. And of course, that person is the great Nobel Prize physicist, scientist, well-known mathematician, Tupac Shakur.
Interesting.
Yes. So Tupac arrives and as a augmented reality hologram, and the light bulb goes on. This is actually something that can happen. And now, Paul Duffy will run the rest of the podcast. What the fuck is going on in augmented reality? Like, nobody knows. It's a thing. It's coming. Like, I'm on the leading edge of technology. I see everything. There's nothing I don't see. Because of Pitch Anything, everybody wants to raise money. They come to me and they say, we're doing a colony on the dark side of Mars. Right. And we need, $50 billion and go get it. I see everything. But this is one thing I don't understand. So when they said you were coming on, I freaked out and said, finally, ground zero for understanding augmented reality. Now I stop talking and you tell us the secrets to the universe.
All right. I'll try.
And here we go.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
All right. Shoot.
Let
me hear it. But before you go there, let me just say this. So I know that Tupac is a great mathematician, but about 3, maybe 4 years ago now, I actually did beam a hologram of Stephen Hawking from his, Potter Lounge, his studio, not really a studio, his lecture hall actually, in Cambridge, to Hong Kong in a almost 2 full hour live holographic transmission of him. And, so it has been around. I did invent, patent, you can look it up actually, holographic telepresence. It's used quite frequently now. The whole concept of augmented reality is just galloping in growth right now. And when I say growth, not just in financial terms, but in mind share, in people understanding its use. I personally believe that over the next decade, the 2020s, augmented reality itself will become a new form of mass medium that we will all use to communicate at one level. I think you'll see significant milestones and breakthroughs over the next decade. with the technology, ultimately finding its way into a low-cost, lightweight pair of eyewear, controlled through a variety of different functions and features. You may even see it in contact lenses, but ultimately, it will be something that resides very close within the context of your field of view, and you will superimpose around you photorealistic, spatially aware elements,
Okay,
people,
so
products, etc. Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't know, a lot of the Ready Player One fans don't know
yeah,
that Paul Duffy died 3 years ago. And this,
yeah.
in fact,
I'm
is
a massive deep fake.
a deep fake holographic avatar
Right.
of Paul
Yeah,
Duffy, in which we have deleted all the. We haven't heard any swearing. We haven't seen any pornography.
that's right.
In which we've deleted all the bad parts and left the amazing parts of Paul Duffy for you to experience at this moment. Okay, so I think me and everyone else has sort of seen Microsoft promote this as a plumber or electrician coming to your house, getting under your
Mm.
sink or in your thing, not understanding, the wiring diagram, calling back to headquarters, right, to some tech, Tim, Joe, Prajesh, 19-year-old tech is pulling up.
Totally. Yeah,
We're getting in trouble already. But I said
I
Tim
hear
and
you.
Prajesh. I didn't just say anyway. So then the tech pulls up and then he projects a holographic image over the electrician's box, and there's, press this button and he's got the solution, and the plumber electrician now knows how to fix whatever it is you have in your house. So that's the version that I think we're all familiar with. Take me to sort of an extreme value proposition that you guys can see, within 5 to 8 years that really like affects Western culture, something that's just going to pop up through the cracks, that is obvious to you, but is maybe scary
Sure.
or surprising to us sitting here on the edges, only knowing about the Microsoft plumber and Tupac.
Yeah, that's all good. So I think, probably the most, well, there's several relevant experiences that you're going to see. And I don't think they'll be 8 to 10 years out. I think they'll be 3 to 5. Personally, when you look at any form of advertising right now, whether it's, outdoor or online, you're literally going to click a button or you're going to point your phone and you're going to beam in and view through your phone that product, that person, or that place.
God
If
damn.
it's a product,
Yeah.
you're going to pinch it, it's going to tap to your body, and you're going to zoom it into a fit, you're going to hit lock, and you're going to purchase it.
You know what's happening to me? You're just taking me back to all the dreams I've had where I'm eating a Snickers bar. Right. And I put the Snicker, and it's in REM sleep. I'm had some sleep issues that are cured now. So I'm very so intimately familiar with the science. So you're in REM sleep, you're paralyzed. That's why you feel like you're moving slowly. You finally get the Snickers bar into your mouth and you chomp down on it and you wake up, in a start, because there's no Snickers bar there.
Right.
And that's because of you is going to be real.
It's possible, and I'll know how much you ate and how long you chewed and all that data.
So Paul, you've had 3 other software companies in which you've really been the commercialization guy, where a bunch of guys have built solutions looking for problems, right? And so you've seen some amazing stuff, and then you go, yeah, but what's the TAM? What's the SAM? What's the available market? How do we monetize this? What are the key assumptions? Who are the early adopters? How do we reach them? What's the cost of reaching the early adopters? What does the spreadsheet look like? How long are we without income? What does it take to feed the spreadsheet? What is the cost of acquiring a customer? What's the lifetime expectation on the early adopters? How do we move into the mass? When we move in the mass, how do we adjust pricing? What happens to the early adopters? Where do they go? Can we support both groups? So you have to do all of that.
Yeah.
As a commercialization guy.
Yeah.
And so you haven't, gone mad or crazy like everyone else who's done it. And by the way, there's lots of guys who've done this one time, right?
Yeah.
And it drives them, to madness and drugs and alcohol. But you have somehow signed up for doing it multiple times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. Yeah.
This is a strange guy I'm talking to right now. No, but that's awesome. So what are the experiences from the past that you're taking? Is this just another thing, or is augmented reality special? In, are you just sort of stamping out beer cans in terms of commercializing software, or is this something that your past experiences tell you there's something different about?
Yeah, no, I've seen this repeat. So I've got roughly 30 years that I've always been, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, self-employed, building businesses, scaling and selling. And, my first set of business, my first company, CCI, came out of 1992, actually, where I developed computer-based training. Back then it was floppy disks and 386 computers for AT&T Paradigm, if you can believe it. Use case there was very simple. We've got thousands of field engineers and we can't bring them in all the time when we want to train them on a product. So can we create simulators where we can model the product and push it out there? So, I worked on that and we scaled that company very fast. It was my partner and I think by about 98, 99 at that point, we'd over 120, 130 employees, a couple different locations. And then, I could see the advent of the internet impacting the use of effectively corporate training, customer service, etc. And so we got really good at that. And then basically in about the late 90s, Thompson Publishing came to us and said, look, we're studying this idea of e-learning. You guys are doing a lot of corporate training. Can we put the two together? And I could see this technology underpinning of the internet and the use of online learning sort of intersecting. And I thought, that internet, it sounds kind of coy now, but that's going to become a very powerful medium for us. Let's commercialize our tech on that. And we did. We ended up creating everything desktop, very successful suite of, Office and Windows training products sold all over the world. And we ultimately exited that company in 2003 to Skillpath Seminars. And, basically in and around that time, when I sort of sat back and looked at things, it became clear that the next wave, that next new mass medium was not just the internet, but mobile devices. And again, not a big eureka for everybody, but you could see its penetration. And so with the mobile phone, it became very evident to me that we could use video streaming on mobile phone to do something not too dissimilar to what you talked about with the plumber. It was effectively product training, but for distribution and sales channels, but done with a relatively low cost of friction, right? I mean, you're basically sending them through phones. But what I did at that time was, rather than build and construct these learning objects to be, experienced, I took the subject matter expert, put them in front of a camera with a green screen, and created a digital human experience that could be streamed through your mobile device directly to the point of need. And so in my first businesses, I saw the internet, all the problems and minutiae to scale and sell in that. And there were many. And then when I saw the mobile approach to that, I thought, you know what, there's a reframe here, but it's a lot more powerful and a lot more ubiquitous. So that was wonderful. That business was exited in about 08, 09. It's funny because some of my engineers back now, I probably got back in the game around 2010. I took some time off. My wife was convincing me to walk the dog so I'd get up and get dressed and all that good stuff. And, I started to get the itch of what else could we do with the digital human experience.
So,
and then I saw the Coachella.
Well, and then were you, by the way, were you far enough along in your career that you could basically cut expenses enough and just go on forever without going back into the work world?
Several times. Yeah. I mean,
I just want people listening to take a deep breath. Now, some of them are in that, but 98% of them are going, if I sold my company, won the lottery, had an NFT, had a Jordan PSA 10, sitting in a shoebox, and I sold that, let me tell you what I would do, motherfucker. I would go to Hawaii, learn, be a surfer. You need an Iridium phone to find me once a year, and I'd be out of here. What? But every single person that I know, and I have a unique set of peers who gets to that scenario. I had a friend, this is so good, sold his company. A founder pulled him into a company as an engineer, gave him 30% of the company during the .com. So he was a little engineer. He wasn't little, a guy named Brian, 6'2". But he was in the company for a year, and they ended up selling it to Yahoo or something like that for $1.2 billion. His take was $300 million, paid some taxes, had $150 million. His previous, annual salary was $85,000.
Yeah.
Right. So he gets the check right down the road here in Claremont Mesa, and he goes down to Ferrari and he buys a 1956 Fangio, one-off, for $10 million. He buys a jet boat. That thing was like $11 million. Buys a Porsche twin turbo, a Lotus, a Ferrari F40, so the jet boat, Lotus twin turbo, Ferrari, and one other thing. So there's 7 or 8 holy grail purchase. So I go over to his house, but he hasn't bought a new house yet because that's complicated, right? More than buying a boat or a car. You buy a car, they drop it off at your house. So he's living in a neighborhood in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom little neighborhood house. And then, the jet boat is sitting out front. The Ferrari F40 is in the garage with like canoes and snowboards leaned up against it. He's got 3 kids running around. So they all do that like in the first 2 weeks. He's got a Porsche 959, sitting on the driveway in the rain next to the jet boat. And, it looks like a scene from a movie. Pablo Escobar lives here. And then what does he do? 5 weeks later, he pulls a Paul Duffy, starts a new company, and starts going to work 10 hours a day, without hope, software company, pouring money in without hopes. Without reasonable expectation of success, daily frustrations, working hard, not seeing his family, right back to being an engineer at SAIC, making $85,000, same lifestyle. What's going on with you guys? Tell people. It's Sisyphus. You guys are Sisyphus. You get the rock to the top of the hill, right? Exactly where you want to be, and then God send his hand down, and the mighty shall become the weak, and the pastures of men shall recur upon whatever, right?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Why do we do that?
What's going on with you?
Well, it's interesting. So I'll tell you, it's an interesting story. I get asked this a couple of times, right? And I don't really wax on it too much, but here's my thought. The truth is the first 10 years was a complete grind. And I mean,
what was your worst moment? When you say a grind, everybody can relate to that because they're grinding right now while they're listening.
Oh, dude, I blew through 4 houses. I blew through 4 houses to make payroll. I funded everything. I basically, I think 120 employees, and you're backstopping all of it. We didn't raise any capital.
Yeah.
We were project by project. I mean, we were the best company on the planet when it came to building computer-based. I mean, I built it for Microsoft. They would hire us out of Redmond, IBM, Thompson that I mentioned, Honeywell. I mean, I can go on and on. And, we were frankly unstoppable. But, there isn't, anybody who's ever built a company from scratch that can tell you without their nose growing that they weren't on the brink of, running out of cash, using everything in their network to survive, operating globally. Just when you're a kid, I was in my 20s and early 30s. You're scaling all that. You've got people issues. You could have legal issues. You're trying to figure out pricing models. You've got all these things rolling up onto the beach against you. And the only thing that's keeping you going is you're getting more and more orders. You wake up, I got another client. Oh, I got another order. And it's just, it's like literally riding a rocket. And, I wish I could tell people there's like one silver bullet that, will solve it all. And I don't think there is, to be frank. I mean, I wish that there is, somebody could tell me. So but Jimmy, in truth,
we have to talk about NexTech, and we're going to do that, and sure. You and the company and everything. But give me a real, if you can, without causing a flashback, and sending you into epileptic fit. I don't want to.
I could tell you. I got you. So a couple.
Yeah.
So I'm in Toronto right now, and in Canada we're probably known for playing ice hockey. So I would literally go out every Friday at 7 a.m. and play on a men's pickup hockey team, fairly good level, way better than I was, for the sole purpose is to abate my anxiety before I went into the weekend to sweat payroll. Because, as you're young and growing like that, you're not overly familiar with all the capital instruments that are available for you to do such things. And when your business is growing and you're always forward thinking, I used to live my life in how many payroll runs I could hit comfortably. And I know that sounds a bit crazy today, but when you're younger like that and you got 100 plus, families on the line, it's a big deal. And so it took me a while to learn through that. And I did. I've got, great bankers, I got great accountants and lawyers, and everybody sorted it all out because we were a bit of a success story, right? So I had some good people surrounding me. But that was one area where I found a lot of anxiety.
Well, here's what I think everybody wants to know off of that. Being in Canada, the beer is really like piss weak. You don't really
Some
see
of it. It's getting better. Come on.
But this story was in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
So, I go to Canada. We have a place in Whistler. So you're not going to school me on Canada right now. Because Whistler is representative of all of Canada, as you know. But
100%.
So the beer, 10, 15 years ago in Canada is moose piss. You don't seem like a drug user. So what kind of alcohol, do you guys drink up there? I think that's what people want to know to blunt the pain.
Well, up here in Canada,
Yeah.
well, there's you're right. The beer is a little weak. Scotch is very popular. But you got your standbys too, tequilas and vodkas and gins, and and I'm in Toronto, so it's very cosmopolitan here, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than Whistler. But it's one of those things where, and I can see it now with particularly in Toronto, it very multinational. So what used to be just beer has now, you've got a wonderful selection, of virtually everything. So.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'd like to introduce you to the spokesman for the Canadian Bureau of Tourism.
There
Paul
we
Duffy.
go.
He'll be sharing.
I think they might actually be a client of ours. I'm not kidding.
So, by the way, my son, we can talk about this later, he's been playing ice hockey since he was 3.
He was quite good. Yeah.
He's a good player, but we're in Southern California. So we have to go to an ice rink. So we take him to the ice rink 2-3 times a week diligently as parents. Right.
Yeah.
But then kids move here from Vancouver and Toronto and Minnesota. And those little kids, wonderful little kids, are on the ice. So we are now have him on the ice 12 times a week. And right there behind that wall, I had to build an ice hockey rink. Right here behind that wall. That's not a hologram, which we got to talk about holograms. An ice hockey rink in our warehouse so he can be on the ice 12 times a week to get on a B team in Southern California. So it's very competitive. And hopefully we can get sort of augmented reality players. Yeah, I mean, we got to get there. But we're in Paul.
It's coming, by the way.
Right now. I mean, I just can't imagine. So, SuperChecks?
Sure.
So he has a SuperChecks machine in our living room, which is why my wife is trying to find a divorce lawyer. If you know a good divorce lawyer, just send it to my wife. She's looking. So we have a SuperChecks machine in our living room. But I just can't imagine, that level of play and mechanics out in the warehouse as augmented reality, what that is going to do.
Right.
Because if you think about, getting back to AR, if you think about professional race car drivers, so they're now spending 70% of their time in AR rigs, in iRacing rigs.
Right.
And 30% because that actually translates to track. In fact, they when they have tournaments for all like the little non-race car drivers, but people who just learn, racing on a computer and an iRacing rig, and they bring the actual race car drivers to those tournaments. The sense was like, the guys who are just video game artists are going to win against a race car. The race car drivers, with the combination of reality and the iRacing rig, actually win those tournaments over just the computer game jockeys. Yeah. So what AR is going to bring to those kinds of sports, where you can put the kids in real world situations without, without being on the ice. Now you're going to have kids in Southern California being able to compete against kids in Minnesota who can skate when they come home in their backyard. I mean, it's mind boggling. I mean, this AR, to me, to get back on it, it's like I mean, I want to stop everything else I'm in and just focus on that, because it feels like as big as the internet when you really start exploring the business cases, the value propositions, and the
I think it's going to be bigger. I mean, to your earlier point about, sort of successive waves and where things have come about, it's why at the beginning when we were talking, I said, my personal feeling is it's going to become one of the new mass mediums of this decade. The same way mobile became a medium, the same way internet, the same way, basically video is. It's going to become omnipresent. And to your point, you're going to see miraculous types of experiences. And these are just the things we're thinking about, as well as I do. Once people start doing this and the network effect takes over, the stuff that's going to come out of it's going to be extraordinary. Just extraordinary. Yeah.
Before my next question, I have to point something out. Do people tell you that you look like Joe from Ballers?
No, but I do like that show Ballers, and I will mention that to my wife.
Let me share my screen. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You thought I meant Dwayne Johnson?
No, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I meant Rob Connery, right? Have you put glasses on this guy?
It could be him, right? Maybe it is.
Screen. Yeah. Can we zoom in?
He threw in acting and he got into AR. There you go.
I think you're more handsome than that guy.
That's polite of you.
So, okay. I just wanted to point that out because it was kind of bugging me.
Good show though. Yeah.
Great show. So, I want to get into tech. I want to get into money. I want to get into value proposition. And then I want to get into how me listening to this in my company can move in this direction. But first, I think what scares you most about this technology? What gives you?
Oh, that's a good question. And I, when you talk to guys like me who, kind of find it fun to commercialize.
Yeah.
I tend to look at, when you would say, hey, what scares you most? I look at that really not so much as a problem, but as an opportunity. And that sounds cliche. To figure out how to rationalize and turn that into, value, depending on how you want to define value. So what I see right now, and I say this with, a global sales team, there's 300 folks at NexTech. We talk every day, about what's happening and where the opportunities are.
But you guys have 300 people?
Yeah.
Right.
And we're in a very fast growing business.
Wow. Huh? Yeah. Internally,
full time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We're a 3-year-old company. I mean, and we've just been scaling. Pardon?
Quick correction to that number. It's 301 because I just submitted my
your resume. All right.
Resume and application.
We're gonna turn you into a hologram, Oren. I'm telling you. Let me show you how we're gonna beam you so you can stand right here and people can talk to you in their room and in your house, and then they'll take selfies and you'll go viral.
I love it. I love
it. But kind of here. So here's where, what I see is, and I like this, but it is a challenge. I'm seeing at a global level a large adoption of the technology. And what I mean by that is there's more and more folks like you, Oren, who are seeing it as a technology that they can apply and they can use to gain value intrinsically in what they're already doing. That's the key.
The correction is I'm seeing it and freaking out and going, if somebody understands this better than I do in my business, faster than I do, I feel like I could go from leadership position into going, hi, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is MySpace.
Right.
And Xerox.
No, you're
BlackBerry and Deck and
No, but you're right. I mean, that's my polite Canadian way of saying it is I'm hearing it from a lot of different sources, but that's what we're hearing. Is brands
get out of me that if I don't get control of this, somebody is going to disintermediate and remove me from the success track that I'm on to going, what just happened and how do I catch up? Oh, I know how I catch up, like how I always need to catch up with money, and then I'm out there. So, well, before we get to that, put on your Al Qaeda hat for a moment.
I don't know if I have one of those.
Sorry. Put on your bank robber hat.
All right, there we go.
Right? Okay. Put on your hacker hat. How do we, what should we expect to see on the dark side of this technology?
Oh, you mean what are the negatives?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had a very good conversation with somebody on this internally, one of our engineers, about this idea of the propagation of deep fakes.
Yeah.
The ability to see the technology. And so the reason that's rational is in time, and I mean within 12 months, video like you and I are in at the moment will certainly have machine learning techniques built into it that'll start shading us and giving us depth in 3D. And then that vector will allow us to pull that content, stream it, and then view it as a hologram through the phone, and then eventually the eyewear.
Yeah.
So, we're not far from that, I mean, when I say far, a year or two out. And so, why that is important is that the ability now to fake your presence in my room is real. And so, what I'm also seeing similarly is the vector around, you talked a little bit earlier about NFTs and stuff. In my mind, it's more, crypto content that's got some sort of binding agreement to say it's unique.
Yeah.
Those bits are going to start to materialize as a bit of an offset, if you would, to that potential danger. And I don't think it'll be solely in the domain of humans. I think you'll see it with products, you'll see it with places and others, because it is quite interesting what you can do. From I'll just call it from a fake point of view, like a deep fake point of view. I don't lay awake at night worrying about any of that. It's not something that we spend time concerned about. But that's one area that just we popped up when we were sort of brainstorming around sort of right sides of the opportunity.
Pops into my mind.
Okay.
Right. I wasn't bullied as a kid, unfortunately, and I'm much better now. But I was the other side of bullying.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Not proud of that part, but I
At
was.
least you can admit it. We can get into that another time.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an age where you could change your own report card. Like go to the mail.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah. Where Xerox machine, you could change your report card or intercept. There wasn't an iPhone. There wasn't like kid report. So I was able to protect my parents from a lot of the horrible characteristics in my base personality, which are all, of course, now fixed. All of them.
Of course.
But where my mind goes is, somebody's asleep in bed, and somehow I figure out how to project their worst, nightmare, and they wake up in this sort of, how you can wake up and you see the folded laundry, on a chair, and it looks like the Grim Reaper because it's night and it's scary, and your brain is in that certain cocktail of, chemicals running through it, where it's particularly sensitive to noise and images. So I project that person's worst nightmare from having done research on LinkedIn and watched a podcast like this, and then they have a heart attack or a brain aneurysm or something, and I've killed somebody using an hologram.
Yeah, I'm not sure that happened.
Okay,
what's that?
That's a step too far.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they'd have to wake up with something that they could view the hologram through. It's possible, but not likely.
So how far is it to how far are we to having no contact lenses or no glasses, and just really having the Star Wars Princess Leia projection without any interpreting technology, glasses or contacts?
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah. So there are a couple ways you could do it today. Ultimately it's a lighting gag, at the end of the day when you see that. And so you need some sort of source for that light to render on, more importantly, for it to bounce back so you can see it. And, you can accomplish very real looking versions of that Princess Leia hologram using, air filter and water droplets coming down. So I guess in theory, we could set up a scenario where you could wake up and see it over there.
Your long past grandmother.
Yeah, exactly.
the ring.
conjures up in the
Do not project. Listen, I have a lot of years left of me. Do not project the chick from the ring into my bedroom at 2 a.m. That is going to take years off my life. Just heads up. Okay.
Well, now that you coughed up the bullying stuff, I'll just go and seek some of those, kids from the other side and conjure them up.
So bad. So bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Value which businesses are going to be able to take advantage of this earlier now?
Sooner. Yeah.
So than later. Who should be on this today? That as fast as things are changing, from what you see on the inside, is basically screwing up their potential as a leader by not going to, I think we gave the link, Investor Brand Network /Oren, or Paul, how do people reach you?
Well, just come to our website, NexTechAR.com.
NexTechAR.com. So go to one of the, who has to be doing that like right now?
Well, it's great. I mean, there's three key areas I would highly encourage, and we're full-throated into, which is why our growth is where it's at. The first one and most obvious is if you're a brand and you sell through e-commerce, you have to use augmented reality. I mean, full stop. People need to be able to see your product. They need to experience it, to visualize it, to take if I want to buy this shirt, I should be able to have a hologram of it, walk into my closet and line it up, color match it to my clothes, and then buy it. Click. So e-com is a big one. The second one, Oren, is we're doing like an event right now. It's just you and I and your audience. But in truth, we have a full-on digital experience platform for running hybrid and virtual events, and all of those use some form of holograms. Whether you're in a booth or I want to beam a keynote speaker into my room, if I want to be the keynote speaker and beam onto the stage, that's huge. And that is just growing like crazy. And then the third area is anybody, again, who has a brand, who does any form of advertising, they should be thinking about augmented reality ad units, putting their spend into AR ad units. Because if I don't go to your website, I don't need to go to your website, but if I can see your ad and I can click on it and I can bring the car in, I can bring the shirt in, I can bring these glasses, I can bring whatever I want in, I should be able to do that directly from the ad. And so those are three kind of must-have areas that, frankly, that's why our business is growing, is we're active in all three of those, right? And that's right now. In 2022, I just think it's going to get crazier, and 23 even bigger. So it is a rotation into a new medium.
Quick question, what movie am I thinking of?
Well, Minority Report.
Okay.
Yeah, that's old.
So all right. I'm thinking of Minority Report, but when they're running through the mall and everything, and they have all these projections of ads, right? And the ads are then reading your retina and then projecting something that you would be interested in, and then trying to interact with you.
Yeah.
2021, 2025, 2030.
Well, I have a bunch of patents on that from like 2018. The idea though is it's essentially, so here's kind of how that works. And when is it available? I would say probably from a mainstream point of view, as opposed to limited, I'll call it early adopter type stuff.
Let's early adopter, right?
Okay. Oh, early adopter stuff. I think right now, you'll probably see a number of, I'll call them destinations, malls, airports, etc., beginning to implement that now. I know we have folks that we speak to specifically about this. And it's not like we're the first in that game. There's others that have been working in this area, where ultimately what you're doing is you're using device awareness to create programmatic targeting of those ads to that individual. And then you're using sensors from that location to determine male, female, age groups, cohorts, body movement, dwell times in front of the space. If they dwell longer, boom. We have tech within our ad stack, right now, where we will use, you have to give us permission to do it, but through the camera,
Yeah.
we'll use machine learning and AI to determine various facets around the sentiment in the moment. So if I wear a pair of glasses and I'm looking at a series of micro expressions, and our machine learning is telling us that you're vectoring towards like or dislike, we
Yeah.
can programmatically serve up the right content. And so I don't think we're that far off, Warren. I think that's a 22, 23 time frame.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. THX 1138.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who you're scaring the shit out of is a small community called the Polar Bear. They're like,
Yeah.
Oh, you don't need actual polar bears to make kids happy, and you can just project them and they can interact and detect your emotions, and so
Possibly. But I mean, the truth of it is, hopefully, what occurs is that it proliferates and you get more polar bears, right? You know what I mean? There's always a good side to it. Yeah.
Of course. Well, one thing I do recognize about you, is I'm kind of throwing jab, right hook, but I don't have an interview where you're giving me the interview you gave last time. So I am kind of on your case, but I do think we're getting a fresh view from Paul Duffy on how this technology is really, gonna unfold. I think the scariest thing in reality I'm hearing is that this is not 2030 and you have a bunch of catch-up time, and that if you're a 50, 75, 300 person company, you need to have a couple people on this now. I remember I was running a software company, and a intern came to me about the internet, right? And I was like, "Thouest do not knowest about technology, such that I have developed in the kingdom of my reign. Get thee to the stables," is what I told this wench. And then she went on to start a $80 million internet company.
Yeah.
So
I'm done with your local area network. I'm going to the web.
we were a boxed software company that shipped. And she's like, "Hey, let me explain to you the internet. Get thee to your stable, wench." So that was sad for me, but I feel like this is another one of those moments, and I'm super excited about it. Really quickly, two things. Revenue model. What is the most obvious, specific revenue model that you are seeing today that actually makes sense? So for guys like me who are like, "Hey, we don't have an R&D department. We're a 25 person company. We have a revenue department. We have a chief revenue officer. We don't have a chief scientist." Where to look to revenue?
Well, in our case, we have a subscription model for our LiveX platform, right?
Well, that's your revenue model, but for a client, for a company, where do they go out? I understand you want people to pay you money. That makes perfect sense. By the way, if you have any money, give it to Paul. All right, because he can help you out.
Give it to NexTech.
Give it to here's Paul. Send it to Paul in Bitcoin.
Right. That's right.
Right. Hey, all you securities guys, we're joking. It's a joke. Okay. Doesn't say anything about the stock. Future performance of the stock is past performance is not an indicative of any future performance of the securities, and some foreseeable impact may exceed this helmet's ability to protect the user. I'm going to give that disclaimer.
That was good.
Where should we see the first real revenue impact for users come from as a use case, as a specific use case?
Well, if you're a brand, right, and in your case, if it's you personally, it's in your ability to become a hologram and then beam into through a phone again, or through the phone into any location. The value there, Oren, is that you're now not restricted to this little window we're in.
Yeah.
You can move around, you can pull in, whatever you want. So that's one there. If you're a brand, so a product, again, having a holographic version of your product, it should be across all your channels, right? I mean, everything that you're using your phone for should have an ability for you to click and literally pull in that product whenever you want it. And I can tell you from our use case, our clients, people pull up holograms of their product while they're shopping in a store, and they buy it through the e-com website, even though the product's sitting on the shelf and the hologram. I mean, it's remarkable what people are doing with this.
Awesome.
You know? Yeah.
So, I think I can tell you, lock your doors at night or don't lock them. It doesn't matter. I'm coming in. I will see you. So we're going to do an event, right? You and I, we're going to do an event.
Yeah.
All right. So next week I'm like I said, don't worry about your doors. Put something over your windows, because I'm coming into your living room.
I love it.
Tell us something that I should have asked a long time ago, because sometimes I talk to companies, right? And I think they're 500-person companies, but from the way they talk and the technology they have and the partnerships and agreements, and then I find out it's 3 people, a dog, and they're actually at Starbucks. So tell us about the actual company, because I think we're frightened and interested and excited about the technology, but what's going on with the company? Yeah.
Well, NexTech is an amazing company, right? And I mean,
and I mean that work for.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Rounding in and have stock in is an amazing company. Yeah,
of course, shocker, right? So
everybody sit down.
Yeah, I know, right?
Amazing.
So but I mean, here's the frame on it. It's ultimately it's a tech company that puts augmented reality into everything. And in the early days, in our world, 2018 was an early day. It was all about, e-commerce. Where could we find value with augmented reality? And really, ultimately, that netted out to, how do I convert a shopper to a buyer in the context of an e-com website, right? I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the beginning. And even back then, the AR, very limited, but it ran through your browser, so you didn't need an app.
Sure.
And, and what we did early was we acquired e-commerce businesses. One was a vacuum cleaner company, specifically to study the customer's journey. And of course, the recent, uptick in sales from work from home, shop from home, that business has thrived. And ultimately, as we began putting AR into streaming video, COVID hit. And it became very clear that we could somewhat pirouette from e-com into events and experiences, virtual, right? And so that took off. And then in January, we brought in Harish Achi, who's formerly head of Microsoft Online, to run our AR ad network, because our e-com business had a thriving base of AR ads, and shocker, events are themselves private marketplaces with a lot of attendees that can utilize, not spammy ads, but very programmatic, very product positioned ads or sponsorships. And so all of that worked out quite well for us. And so the business has been growing, it's been thriving. We're clocked out in 2020 with about 17.8 million in revenue. Probably carried about 2 million additional into backlog for 2021.
Yeah.
We've had 8 successive quarters of growth. We just we don't think we're going to stop, obviously. But that's what I mean when I say it's a great company. It's got the fundamentals. As a commercialization guy and always inside the, I'll call it either the key owner or one of the founders, it's wonderful to watch the formative planks of this business come together. Where it sits today, and why I'm very bullish on it, is the executive leadership team. There's about 15 of us, and it is a who's who in technology, from SAP, from Apple, from Norton, from Disney, and Microsoft. And these folks are just, there to thrive in the company. And that's why I'm excited by it. Yeah.
And I think here's what I'm excited. You guys have the triangle, right? So if you go to Silicon Valley, people will say 2 things. One is teams win, right? That's the most important thing. But they invest in technology and teams secondarily. They'll say teams win first, but
because they kind of need to, but yeah.
You have to. By the way, Silicon Valley, is somewhere that whatever you hear is not what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Right? It's a land of opposites. What is up is actually upside down. Time is not time. Money is not money. People are not people. And everything is backwards and reversed. But they will say teams win, which is correct. But that is not the first principle. The second principle is the other side of your or corner of your triangle, which is technology. So you have team, technology, and money. And then the things you don't have is some 29-year-old MBA venture capitalist telling you what to do. So you have the 4 elements of just what I see across 20 years really make great companies. And I'm hugely excited by it. Yeah. Paul, I will see you next week. We're going to do this again. Thank you for your patience and your easy smile and your authenticity. I'll tell you this. Here's what I like about you. We'll get people on here. And again, they have canned comments about the technology, about the company, and they tell us, A, what they think we want to hear, B, something that's scripted and they've said on CNBC 1,000 times. And what do we get? A donut hole.
Yeah.
But I think you really came and tried to answer the questions authentically and honestly. And that is something that's pretty rare in a senior executive of a big company like this, especially with someone as experienced as you are. You know how they get the football players? Deshaun, tell us about the first half. What do you think? Well, we had a good first half. I think we got to put a little bit more effort on defense. The offense, really seemed to be throwing the ball well. We got to move it down the field a little bit more. I feel like, they're playing a good team. Lots of respect to the other team. Thank you very much. So that's usually what you get. But I think you really gave some thoughtful answers.
Yeah, hopefully it was a little deeper than that.
Much deeper. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, this has been the Dealmaker podcast. I've been here with Paul Duffy of NexTech AR. Hey, if you are interested in this subject, we have been sponsored here today by Investor Brand Network, and you can find out more about any of this by going to Investor Brand Network/Oren. Paul, thank you for being here, and I will see you here. We'll be doing this again next week this time.
I think so. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
All righty, Mark. Take care, buddy.
Hey, thanks for listening, and be sure to stay tuned for more great content from Oren Klaff.